And Election Day is next Tuesday, November 7th, with the Duluth mayor's race dominating local news coverage. But voters who live in the Duluth School District will have 2 referendum questions on their ballot to decide on. Here to tell us more about the referendum is John Magas, Superintendent of Duluth Public Schools. And Superintendent, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks. Now, for people who have not been following the issue, or those who don't live in the Duluth School District, can you give kind of a brief recap of what you are asking voters to consider?
Sure. So we just came out with our strategic plan. I've talked about that before, and it has 3 main areas: supporting every student, advancing equity, and improving systems. And we really need to make sure that we have the resources needed. And we did have temporary funding from the COVID pandemic. Basically, it was called ESSER money, and that was about $30 million, but all that money was meant to be spent by June 30th of 2024, and so we're coming against that deadline. And as a school district, we didn't have devices that we needed, and we also needed money for some of the supports for academic supports and mental health. And so we're asking the voters to support two questions, or to consider 2 questions, I should say, on the referendum. And the first one focuses on academic supports, mental health supports, and a new high school schedule. And then the second one focuses on the technology needs of the district.
So, John, is one referendum dependent on the other?
No, in this case, in some cases they are, but in this case you could vote yes, yes, no, no, or no, yes, or yes, no. So you can vote either way you want on either question.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about the COVID emergency funding, which was a one-time emergency relief fund, designed to be short-term help with the districts as you kind of worked your way through the pandemic. Is it reasonable for voters to expect that maybe at the end of the pandemic, things kind of roll back to what the original budget was?
Yeah, and I think that's something to consider, and that's really why it's an important question for our voters. But when we think about the mental health needs and the academic needs of our students, and if you talk to any family that has had kids go through the pandemic, or if you talk to any educators, you'll find that the results of the pandemic were much more long-lasting. In fact, the money that was given for this was given in summer of June, basically, of 2020. And since that time, basically at that time, we thought the pandemic was going to be over with by fall, and it lasted another 1.5 years. So the effects are still there, and we want to make sure that we have the supports to really elevate and help our kids. Also, what this has done is really allowed for foundational things that we've needed as a district. We have never had one-to-one devices. We haven't had the technology support, and we haven't had the mental health and academic supports that we need. And so really, it's a relatively small ask proportionally, and so it's important for us to consider. But we also know that there are tax implications, and we know that times are tight, and that's an important factor as well. So
you bring up a good point, John. What kind of property tax increases then would result from voting on these 2 questions?
Well, I think one thing that people don't always understand is that even though the assessed values have gone up and taxes have gone up, the money that the Duluth Public Schools receives, it's based on a set proportion rather than going up percentage-wise. So the slice of the pie that we have gotten, even though taxes are higher, is not necessarily larger than what we would have received previously. But for the amounts, the median home price, the assessed value is $289,000 in Duluth, and so question 1 would cost about $1, and question 2 would be about $10.85 for that home. We also have a tax calculator on our website so people can see exactly how much they would pay.
Excellent. Yeah.
Now, some people have questioned what happened to the proceeds from Central High School and from the old Central building, and weren't those designed to maybe go toward reducing the debt, which is one of the questions deals with kind of refinancing the debt for the district.
Sure, and actually that couldn't go towards reducing debt. That can only be used on capital projects. So it can be used for building. Basically, it can be used for things. It can be used for buildings or buying things. So it could have offset some things, and actually we are using it to offset some of the technology needs right now. If the referendum doesn't pass, we'll be looking at just for this next year, reducing our staff by about 22 positions. And then over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, we'll be reducing our $132 million budget by about 20 million. And so that's about 200 positions.
So are Duluth schools on solid financial footing, or is there trouble?
That's a great question. And actually, we're on very solid financial footing. We have gone from having a fund balance of about 300,000 to having a fund balance of nearly 8 million. We'll begin spending that down if the referendum doesn't go through. But Moody's, a global corporation with over 100 years of service, they do bond rating, and we've actually had a double bond rating jump this past spring because we are really handling things in a much more financially responsible manner than we have in the past. And part of it is that our student population has gone up, and part of it is also that we did sell properties that Moody's didn't feel was responsible for us to keep hanging on to.
We've talked a little bit about what would happen if this does not pass, but what if it does pass?
Sure.
What's the vision? What does it bring to the district and to the students?
So it will allow us to keep, we have reading specialists and math, or reading interventionists and math interventionists that we keep for the academic support. We're able to keep additional social workers and counselors that we've been able to hire, as well as multi-tiered systems of support specialists. But it'll also give us a brand new high school schedule. Right now our high school schedule is about an hour shorter than most other districts, and it'll give us more time with our kids to allow them to have greater elective choice and really engage more deeply in their learning. It also, the technology portion, it's not just about devices, but we didn't have devices during the pandemic. We were actually delivering photocopied packets because we didn't have devices because of the last referendum not going through. But we have one-to-one devices now for our students. It's also, though, about cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is a very important issue for us. We have hundreds of attempts each year on trying to infiltrate the system. And large systems like Los Angeles Unified or Minneapolis Public School have sometimes had decades of data copied, very sensitive data, not just birth dates and things like that, but records and things like that that are put out there. So we need to make sure we have that. We need to make sure that we have the funding for our security systems and cameras. And so it's not just about the devices, it's about making sure that we have what our kids need.
And John, Duluth taxpayers are still paying off $143 million in debt from what was then known as the Red Plan. Why do we still have financial challenges?
Sure. So I think, part of that was choices that were made long ago, right? Or at least far before I was here. And so the Red Plan choices, there were situations, and basically the school district took on a lot of debt that comes right out of our general fund. The general fund is usually meant to pay for all the student needs ongoing. And because of the Red Plan, we've been paying that off as it goes. Kind of like having a large credit card debt that you're paying off over years and years. It takes a while to get rid of that and take care of that. But by asking this question on refinancing, because our bond rating has improved, it puts us in a great place to refinance some of that debt, take that burden off, and we're actually going to be able to pay that debt off in about the same amount of time that we would have without this vote. And so actually, by asking the questions the way we did, if we had gone for a straight technology referendum and operational levy for the other pieces, the cost would have been about twice to taxpayers what it is. But knowing where people are at with their taxes, we knew what the district needed, but we also want to be very responsible fiscally to our taxpayers.
Now, along the way, with the development of the long-range plan and with this, you've invited the public to be involved in that process.
Yes.
What are you hearing as you're coming toward the finish line on this?
Well, I certainly don't want to count our chickens or jinx it, but I am hearing positive things from a lot of people in the community. Of course, we are hearing people that have concerns. Some of the concerns seem to be more blanketed, like we don't trust the district or things like that. And I would say take a look at us now. Take a look at our website, futureforward709.org. And that has a lot of information, a lot of questions that are answered there that really should get to the bottom of what people are asking. But again, we're not asking people to vote yes or no. We're just trying to get as much information out there so that people can make the decision on which way they want to go when they go to the ballot box.
All right. And on that note, thank you again so much. Good luck going forward with this.
It's a huge pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.